What if I told you that someone might have laid out a roadmap for our future, all the way back in 1997? Today, we're digging into a book from that year that some people say is spookily accurate in describing our world today, and maybe what's just around the corner.
So let's just sit with that for a second. What if our future was written back in 1997? We're about to look at a document from, almost 30 years ago now that seems to be unfolding like right in front of us. It's wild.
Okay, so the book in question is called, and it's a mouthful, 2025 Scenarios of U.S. and Global Society Reshaped by Science and Technology. It came out in 97, and as you can probably guess, it's all about what the world would look like in 2025. You know, a year that's not some distant future anymore. We're literally on the doorstep.
And look, this wasn't just some fringe sci-fi novel. We're talking about a massive 500-page report put together by professional futurists. And here's the kicker. It was funded by a DC think tank and, apparently, multiple government agencies. That gives it a whole different level of credibility, right? It's pretty hard to just brush that off.
Yeah, and if you actually dig into the acknowledgments, the list of sponsors is, well, it's a real who's who of powerful groups. You've got huge corporations, big tech companies, defense contractors. I mean, these are the exact organizations that don't just watch trends happen, they actively shape them. That's a key piece of the puzzle here.
Which, of course, leads to the big question our source material is asking. When you look at who is funding and writing this thing, were these just super smart, educated guesses, or were they actually looking at a blueprint, a set of plans that were already being put into motion way back then?
And before you answer that, you have to look at the book's track record, because it's kind of stunning. It apparently talked about fast mutating viruses causing pandemics, genetically developed vaccines, a huge shift to working from home, digital currencies, even global vaccination programs run by groups like the WHO. And you got to keep reminding yourself this was all written down in 1997. It's just, wow.
In fact, some people who've analyzed it claim it has about a 90% accuracy rate on its predictions so far. 90%. When you hear a number like that, it kind of makes you lean in and pay really close attention to the parts that haven't come true yet.
All right, so that's the big question, isn't it? If they got so much right about the last couple of decades, what did the book say was still coming? What's on the menu for the final stretch to 2025?
And yeah, this is where things take a much darker turn. The unfulfilled predictions, well, they're heavy hitters. We're talking about a third world war, a nuclear event with widespread contamination, mass starvation, a single global currency, and massive cyber attacks that could take down an entire country's infrastructure. Now, I know that sounds like a crazy dystopian movie plot, but the thing is, as our source points out, these aren't fringe ideas anymore. You can turn on the news right now and hear world leaders and major organizations talking about these exact scenarios. Take the whole mass starvation prediction, for example. It sounds an awful lot like the language we hear from people like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. He's on record talking about having to prepare for a more angry world because of food and energy shortages. And he presents that crisis as the reason we need what he famously calls a great reset. And what about that cyber attack scenario? It seems to be everywhere these days. The source points to that movie Leave the World Behind, the one produced by the Obamas, which is all about a cyber attack taking down the power grid. Or, get this, the video game Black Ops 2, which came out way back in 2014, is set in 2025, and its main plot is a massive cyber attack. And the craziest part, the developers actually consulted with a Pentagon futurist to write it. The book also got incredibly specific about our personal tech. I mean, listen to this. It described smart ID cards for everyone and said they'd hold not just your basic info, but maybe even your religious beliefs and, get this, your genomic data, your DNA. Fast forward to today, and what are we all talking about? Digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, the privacy of our genetic data from services like 23andMe. It's literally in the news every day. What was a wild prediction in 1997 is a mainstream conversation right now. Okay, check this one out. The book predicted Social Security would shift to being based on need only, what we call means testing. The source we're looking at says, okay, that seems reasonable, but what does it open the door for? Once a government can decide who needs money, what's to stop them from deciding who deserves money based on their beliefs? You know, an ideological test. Some would say we already got a preview of that when the bank accounts of those protesters in Canada were frozen. So if controlling your money is one piece of this puzzle, then this next part is, well,
it's probably the most alarming forecast tied to this 2025 timeline. A company called Deagle, which does intelligence work for government agencies, put out a forecast. And in it, they projected the U.S. population would drop from 327 million down to just 100 million by 2025. I mean, that's a collapse on a scale that's hard to even imagine. Now, in fairness, we have to be really clear here. Deagle put a big disclaimer on this. They said this is not God's word and that it's just one possible model that could be wrong. So they aren't saying this is definitely going to happen. But the fact that an organization like that, with its connections, would even publish a scenario that bleak, that's pretty unsettling stuff. So after hearing all that, it's really easy to feel, I don't know, a little hopeless, right? Like the script has already been written and we're just actors. But is that really the case? What are we supposed to do with information like this?
Well, our source brings up this concept called predictive programming. It's the theory that these big, world-changing ideas are first introduced to us through movies, TV shows, and books. The goal is to get us used to the idea, to normalize it. It's kind of like social conditioning. That way, if it ever happens in the real world, we don't freak out. We just kind of go, oh yeah, I saw that in a movie once. The shock is gone.
Which brings everything back to that one really challenging question. Are we just sitting in the audience watching a movie that's already been made? Or are we actually the ones writing the story as we go? Because at the end of the day, a prediction isn't destiny. The whole point of digging into something like this isn't to get scared into doing nothing. It's to be aware, to be activated. The future isn't actually written in some dusty book from 1997. It's being written right now, today, by billions of us, with every choice we make. And that's the most powerful idea of all.